Howdy y'all, and welcome to the Dota 2 Asian Championship 2015 here on HeflaTV. This is going to be a best of two series between Nvidia Aces and Hyperglory Team. And, well, we're already into the draft, but as far as their performance earlier on, it's been pretty interesting, and this should be a pretty good matchup between both of them in a best of two. Anything could happen. I'd expect 1-1 under normal circumstances, but Hyperglory Team are running with some pretty major ping advantage, which is unfortunate, but it is something to keep in mind. As far as our first couple picks here, we're going to see Hyperglory Team snag up the Vengeful Spirit as their first pick. No big surprises there, and for Aces, it'll be a Rubik Morphling opener for them. Pretty interesting to see Rubik get so much early attention inside the draft, and Hyperglory Team will follow up that bench with an Ancient Apparition, and I quite like Hyperglory Team's approach here. Ancient Apparition, really hard for Morphling to deal with, takes away Strength Morph, which is one of his biggest abilities to keep himself alive. As long as you're able to land that ultimate, Strike Morphing is going to do more harm than good, especially if you can catch him when he is in high agility mode. Killing Moth is very easy and in most senses is one of the largest counters to Morphling as a general rule, and it kind of makes sense. If you are going to freeze Morphling, it's pretty easy to shatter him. There are decent spells for the Rubik to steal, although I'm not sure if it's really the best idea to go about first picking this hero. It is nice to have access to the Magic Missile and Swap from the Vengeful Spirit, but really they're probably better supports to fill that early rule, although that could all be changed if the Rubik play is immaculate, and I expect nothing else from Aces. They'll follow up those first two with the Nature's Prophet, and as far as the bans are concerned, we see some pretty standard fare with the Invoker, Troll, Tidehunter, and Brewmaster banned out. Invoker is the most peculiar of them, but not wanting to give them that global artillery cannon, and whoa! Nvidia Aces going to pick up the pudge. If I didn't already like Aces as a team, they've made my day, and we should be in for a little bit of a treat. There is always a little bit inside of me that's hoping that this pudge absolutely goes hog wild, and maybe we do get to see some sort of jungle pudge if they've been paying attention to Jenkins. Leviathan is one of my favorite teams to cast, and a lot of it is down to their peculiar picks. Pudge, not your most conventional one. It is going to offer some decent defensive utility up against the Faceless Void, snagging people outside of Chronos with the hook, or snagging the Faceless Void himself, and just overall being disruptive. HGT will snag themselves up the Shadow Fiend next. I definitely think what HGT are bringing to the table is more stable, but hell, if you can see a pudge, I can't really complain at all. Nyx Assassin last band coming out from Aces, also a pretty peculiar one. Would be able to hunt down the Nature's Prophet and the Rubik fairly effectively, and maybe they're looking to just super greed it up and pick up a Deuce as their last, potentially. I'm not exactly sure what mandates this Nyx Assassin ban, or it could be a random ban since they are at a reserve time. That now comes to my attention. Yeah, no disconnect, so they are still here, and well, actually it is going to be a Deuce, a last pick from them. Whether they intentionally ban that Nyx or not, this is going to be an incredibly greedy draft coming out from Aces, although it's really hard to count out a Faceless Void Shadow Fiend inside the late game. If there ever was a game to do it, now might be it. They really don't have a great way to shore up their minus armor with this last pickup. It probably would have been a Nyx Assassin throwing towards the off lane in order to do so. They might be able to pick up a Diffusal Blade Manta style on the Faceless Void, which is something that I do like seeing up against a Dusa if you are the only target that can focus down the Dusa, and you can do it pretty effectively inside the Chrono. And right now, we're in for some Chinese Dota, even though we have a pudge, and the potential for really early aggression with it, TPing Nature's Prophet. Yeah, Aces are going to be going down the more late game route. We're going to see Queen of Pain next up for Hyperglory Team as we get into the in-game overlay. And, well, that is going to offer them some nice damage to pump inside of the Chronosphere, and making it a very potent tool at that is probably going to be an off-lane utility Faceless Void, and they have plenty of damage to pump into it between Ancient Apparition, Ice Blast, Queen of Pain, and her ultimate, and even Shadow Fiend ultimate to a certain extent, depending on if the positioning's right next to the Chrono. Although that is a little bit less of a synergy, it is looking pretty good for them. I really want to see Misa go absolutely hog wild, but Hyperglory Team, I do like their draft quite a bit, and I think that what they're bringing to the table is going to work well up against Aces. through most parts of this game. We'll just have to see how it all works out. That said, I'll go ahead and introduce all of these players. We're going to have Air playing on the Shadow Fiend, ZSMJ on the Queen of Pain, Icy on the Faceless Void, Kaka on the Venge, and Pretty Hot on the Ancient Apparition. We have some pretty darn major ping issues, and hopefully we'll be able to fix their connection, especially for Misa on that Pudge, as things can get very hairy on a high ping situation on that here. We're going to have Kim playing on the Nature's Prophet, Dog Yuki or 82444 on the Rubik, who was tagged yesterday, Fox on the Medusa, and a stand-in 122690869 on the Morphling, henceforth known as Morph. That about sums it up. There's not much else to talk about. I'm interested to see how these lanes shake down for them. It really feels like off-lane Nature's Prophet, Medusa, safe lane Morph, although there are some flexibilities that they can go about doing. Although I can hope for it, I doubt it's going to happen. Off-lane Morphling, maybe. New meta. But either way, probably just going to be off-lane Nature's Prophet. The Medusa and Morphling might be switching roles, but up against the SF, I think that they'll probably throw the Dusa. Well, for Hyperglory team as well, they have that flexibility to throw ZSMJ and Air wherever they might want to go. It kind of feels like they're going to safe lane farm up the Quap, but no matter how they end up doing it, getting levels as well as some large amounts of gold on all of these heroes is going to be important for both sides, and we're probably going to have a very passive early start to this game, unless, of course, Misa is able to connect with those early hooks. But I think this is just going to start out being a jungle Pudge. There are some nice pulls that you can use on the Dire side to deny farm away from the mid lane and give them an edge for Fox. And that's probably how they're going to do it, at least for the first couple minutes of this game. It really feels like it's unlikely that they're going to roam super heavily. Once they get some more levels up in the Nature's Prophet too, they'll have a lot more potential to look for ganks, but more than anything, I hope the Aces are able to find a stable connection, because right now, it's not looking great. We lost another one, guys. The stream currently is running on very low delay, excuse me, as we are casting this off of the ticket instead of off of the lobby. So if you want to interact in the chat, now's the time, since we are paused and we have some time to actually read the chat. This is unfortunately solo cast for this first series. I'll be joined later on the day by Skim from Gosu Gamers for the second and third series, and then later on the day we'll switch the stream over to Coucher, and I may or may not be co-casting with him. But we do have an action-packed Dota-filled day here on HeflaTV too, so that is definitely something to keep in mind, and stick around, we should be in for quite a treat. Yeah, really not much else on the table. Aces are going to be dragging this out, and I really wish I had somebody else to talk to, as right now there just really isn't any banter to go off of. The cosmetics on either side are pretty mediocre. I was hoping for some sick Pudge cosmetics, but actually it looks like Misa has none. Literally no cosmetics for Pudge. On the HGT side, ZSMJ is pretty kitted out on this Queen of Pain, but we've seen this one before, although that is pretty awesome. Yeah, even rocking the kinetic gem for those mortal wings, and who've they actually been gifted from? I have no idea how to read Chinese. I assume that's Chinese, and I really wish I could. That might give me something interesting to talk about. Outside, I was just rocking the Mushi set. Outside of that set, I think the wings are the weakest part of it, and the Immortal Wings really do complement it. Shadow Fiend, let's see, he's going to be running with the Arcana. 1-3 Shadow Rays combo. Also a gift. Man, these Chinese players getting all the cosmetic love. All of the cosmetic love. Vengeful Spirit, I suppose, has a decent set too. Really, there's not much else to talk about. We still have the Morphling and the Nature's Prophet disconnected. Oh dear. Well, I suppose I can go ahead and check out the standings of all of these teams while I'm at it. Let's go over to the Asian qualifiers and spot out who's actually doing well. Asian qualifier. As far as the group stage standings are concerned, Hyperglory team are currently in limbo at 9-3, and for Aces, they're doing unfortunately 3-11, so doing a lot worse than I thought they were. Maybe these ping problems are really hurting them. At this point, it's impossible for them to actually get further on in the tournament, it seems. I don't see a mathematical possibility to where they could get enough points in the next couple of days, but they're still fighting. And hopefully we'll be able to see some good Dota. This is a time where people are going to have their eyes onto Aces, even if it's not going to be for much longer. You might as well abuse that time in the limelight. HGT, however, this is an important game for them, as they are currently neck and neck with Immortal Magneto and right on the brink of actually bumping up into the top 4 teams. Currently, the standings be CDEC first, eHome second, Tong Fu, and then Big God. No huge surprises there, but then again, we'll just have to see how those settle down. Immortal Magneto is tied in score with Big God, but I think Big God beat Immortal Magneto, if I'm not mistaken, so they are going to get the little bit of extra advantage. Well, very well. Huh. I really wish we didn't have a pause. Pauses suck, I must say. There's really nothing I can do about it either. I just kind of want to have some sort of filler content. We don't even have a previous game to talk about. If this was game number 2 and Pudge was doing amazingly, maybe we could harp on how awesome Misa is, or if it did terribly and he biffed some hooks, maybe we can also talk about him. Pudge is a hero that's really easy to talk about, as far as when you actually see it performed. Landing hooks is not very... I don't know, it's not something that you can learn in theory and then be able to put it into practice immediately. It takes a long time to actually get the feel of the hook and the actual hitbox and how it maneuvers. I'm not a very good Pudge player. In fact, I've played Pudge like once in a pub. Maybe a couple of times in some lobby games, but not really much at all. Well, that said, we now only have one hero disconnected, and that is the Nature's Prophet. So hopefully Aces are going to be able to get everybody in, but things are looking grim. Earlier as well, inside the loading phase, they had some difficulty actually getting into the game proper itself. Yeah. Oh dear. Things aren't getting any better. Maybe it's time to resort to hero lore. I suppose we could just go through all of these teams and read the lore for each of their individual heroes. I have nothing better to do. I have nobody to talk to right now, so... We might as well. Let's start off with Faceless Void. Faceless Void, Dota 2 lore. And we will read about this man without a face. Dark Terror, the Faceless Void, is a visitor from Klazurim, a realm outside of time. It remains a mystery why this being from another dimension believes the struggle for the Nemesis Stones is worth entering our physical plane. But apparently an upset in the balance of power in the world has repercussions in adjacent dimensions. Time means nothing to Dark Terror as a way to thwart his foes and aid his allies. His long view of the cosmos has been given him a remote, disconnected quality. Although in battle, he is quite capable of making it personal. Huh, that is like the most vague and impossible to understand. I mean, most of the hero lores are like that. Nothing you can do about it. So, we've learned a little bit about Dark Terror, and hopefully, as we wait for Aces and their remaining players, we'll find a little bit more about our friend, the Ancient Apparition. Sorry guys, I really don't have anything to talk about. I really would like to not put you to sleep, but what else am I gonna do? As for Kaldir, the Ancient Apparition, he is an image projected from outside time. He springs from cold, infinite void that both predates the universe and awaits its end. Kaldir is, Kaldir was, Kaldir shall be, and what we perceive, powerful as it appears to us, is but the faintest faded echo of the true eternal Kaldir. Some believe that as the cosmos ages, oh my goodness, I can't actually speak, and approaches its final moments, the brightness and power of Kaldir will also intensify. that the ancient apparition will grow younger and stronger as eternity end draws nigh. His grip of ice will bring all matter to a stop. His image will cast a light too terrible to behold, an apparition no longer. He's kind of in the same boat as Faceless Void. They're just some weird, extra-dimensional beings that just kind of chill. They don't actually have a real reason for fighting. They're just like, I'm omnipotent. I'm just gonna chill and jump into. Okay, so maybe we have something interesting to talk about in chat. Who's the caster? Your caster is Mr. Grandis V. You probably haven't heard of me, but that's okay. Hopefully I won't bore you too much. Also, in chat you can type !caster. You want me to cast with you? That's probably not advised high voltas. I'll have a co-caster later on in the evening as well, so that's not going to be a problem. And if this pause remains any longer, we might have other people too. I'll take that as a compliment, I think. Haha. Okay. Oh, very well. Still waiting on this Nature's Prophet, who knows? Not communicating inside the alt chat. Fixing connection. Whatever that may mean. Poor stand-in, Kim. Well, thanks for the thought. I will this. It's not that I'm sad, I just want to watch Dota. I didn't decide to cast this to look at a pause screen. Read Morphling lore. Okay. Well, that'll be the next hero on the docket. This better not be some weird, whatever, boring hero lore, like the Faceless Void Nature Apparition. Come on and load. Why is it taking so long? My internet dying to add insult to injury? No, we're fine. Morphling's wiki page may have died. Ah, there we go. For dark eons, the comet circled, held in thrall to a distant sun. Bound by gravity's inexorable pull, the massive ball of ice careened through the blackness between worlds, made strange by its dark journey and vengeful spirit disconnected from the damn game, and we have nothing else to worry about. Okay, things aren't getting any better. On the eve of the ancient war of Vloy had punched down through the sky and lit a glowing trail across the night, a sign both armies took for an omen. The frozen ball melted in a flash of boiling heat as below two forces enjoined in battle across the border of a narrow river. Thus freed from its icy stasis, the Morphling was born into conflict, an elemental power, one with the tides of the ocean, capricious and unconstrained. He entered the fight, instinctively taking the form of the first general who dared set foot across the water, and then struck him dead. As the motley warriors clashed, he shifted from form to form throughout the battle, instantly absorbing the ways of these strange creatures. Now a foot soldier, now an archer, now the cavalryman, until, by the time the last soldier fell, Morphling had played every part. The battle's end was his beginning. Yeah, that's pretty vague, too. It really doesn't tie into anything, and, I mean, that's partly to Dota's strength. Gift Dota. Tell us about yourself. Okay, well, I'm a young buck from Texas, and I cast all day, and I love it. But, right now, I'm sitting and looking at a pause screen, so I actually don't have much. Report Valve for bad lore. Really should. How long? 3 more minutes. Okay, we can stall for 3 minutes. I'm not sure if I can fill 3 minutes of content talking about myself. I'm a pretty boring person, in all honesty. Yep, not actually much to talk about here. No, I don't sound Texan at all. I was born in the West United States, and that is where I learned to speak. But I grew up mostly in Texas. What did you study? I am actually incredibly young. Like, I just graduated high school. But as far as what I'm interested in, I really love studying computer science. I actually graduated early, too. Yeah. I do, like, very I don't know, complex mathematics. Yeah. It really does. The delay isn't that long, but it does make it hard to hold a conversation. At least it's better than having like 2 minutes delay where you actually just can't do anything. It's like 30 seconds or so, I think. And there's nothing I can do about that. That's the minimum. Hey! You know what? We actually have a game. Who'd have thought? Dota's going to unpause, and we'll see how these lanes shake down from either side. And, well, that's going to be all she wrote. Early items, not much to talk about. We're going to have Boots first opener coming up from the Vengeful Spirit, and for the Pudge, he is going to start out with Tango's Clarity, Stout Shield, as well as a Branch. Misa might be looking towards that jungle Pudge strategy, although we'll see if he's able to pull it off. Outside of that, maybe we're looking for some level 1 ganks. He actually hasn't held his point. He is going full hog into the meat hook level 1, and although that's okay, it might have been useful to contest the rune spot. Not so sure. He's going to be sitting over in this medium camp as they wait for the bounty rune spawn, and it looks like Dire should be able to secure this one 90% of the time. Faces Void looking for his first ward to place, and is going to give him nice vision at the very least over the pool operations coming out from the Rubik that are probably going to be inbound. Alrighty, so Radiant side are going to have 4 heroes down towards bottom, and a very similar move to what we saw Aces do up towards top, and they'll be able to secure the bounty rune for themselves. After an extended pause, it really is hard to get back into the mood of casting, but either way, hopefully we'll get to see some action. Faceless Void, if he walks down this ramp, could be in a whole heap of trouble. They are going to ping up the high ground and make sure there's no ward, and, well, let's see. Misa, are you going to land this hook? They have vision of the Faceless Void. He is going to pull back the Void. He does have Time Walk leveled up. Isn't going to spend that to get down to the low ground without any further follow-up. He isn't going to be able to do anything. And the Queen of Pain, to add insult to injury, is going to secure the bounty rune as well. Although the hook connects, doesn't actually mean much if they aren't able to transition that to a kill. They do have another hook soon, but not soon enough. Pudge's base mana regen is pretty darn awful and isn't wanting to spend the clarity, at least for now. Defensive tri-lane with the Pudge, and it isn't actually going to be the jungle shenanigans Pudge. He is just going to be straight up laning. What he's actually able to accomplish, however, in this laning stage is pretty limited. If they get a hook onto the Faceless Void, 90% of the time he'll be able to time walk out to safety. And actually, no, scratch that. It's going to be a support Morphling. Lane farming Pudge. Huh. I mean, with a Pudge, I suppose anything's possible. I do like me some support Morphling. After you get up to level 5 and 7, you can do quite a lot of work with the Adaptive Strike, getting those guaranteed stuns off. I really hope it works out for Aces, but it really kind of feels like they're just experimenting whole hog. As far as the bottom lane is concerned, it's just going to be Shadow Fiend with Ancient Apparition and Venge supporting him up. The Nature's Prophet needs to be so careful. A single misstep could really end his life very quickly, and Queen of Pain having a good time up against the Dusa in mid. Not to be unexpected. The status quo is looking good for Hyperglory team, as they're getting farm in pretty much all 3 of these lanes. Faceless Void isn't getting that much, I suppose, but he's still getting decent levels, and you're giving farm to the Pudge, which honestly doesn't mean that much. Pudge is a hero that relies on his levels a lot more than he relies on actually picking up the items. Although getting an early Blink Dagger is going to be useful, I can't help but feel that just roaming or jungling on this Pudge would probably have accomplished quite a bit more for Aces. Well, that said, the next ability for us to actually see some aggression maybe is the rune spawns. Morphling as well as Rubik going to look towards the one up towards top. With an invis or a haste, maybe, just maybe, we can see some setup. But none of these lanes really lend themselves to actually getting kills. I think it is going to probably be the Nature's Prophet that dies, and that's not really his fault. But the issue that Magic Missile is just a really good way to set up for the Chilling Touch, and they have a Shadow Fiend to abuse that as well. If he gets stunned here, Kim might just fall, and with the smoke wraparound coming out from Kaka, they are going to land the Magic Missile into him, and with Chilling Touch, a Razor too, this is going to be our first blood drawn by Air. And, yeah, pretty much just as called. Not really much that you can do there as a Nature's Prophet, and from here on out, it's probably safe to assume that he's going to be going towards the jungle, or never mind, he's actually going to try to stick in lane. He'll be able to pull off the creep aggro, but if he's not careful, that same exact kill can happen again. Well, for now, Tier 1 Tower is going to be pressured very heavily, and although he has these treants, it really is just going to serve to feed a little bit more gold to the enemy team. They're still getting lots of tower damage off, and I think he probably could have gotten more by rotating into the jungle, since nobody's actually abusing that farm. And with the magic missile looking into the races, they'll be able to right-click him down. That's going to be Shadow Fiend getting his second kill. They TP in Rubik. He will be able to get a lift and pull back onto Kaka, but the tower aggro is going to be pulled off of him. That means that there is no killing potential, and Pudge is going to cancel his TP. A lot of gold and time as well wasted by aces, and more importantly, Shadow Fiend is getting pretty much everything they could want. That's a bottle up on your safe lane farming Shadow Fiend, as well as picking up a Robe of the Magi. It is going to give him a little bit of extra mana to deal with those raises. It's probably just going to be into power treads, but who knows? Maybe we're in for Blade Mail Shadow Fiend. That could be a thing. As far as Shadow Fiend item progression is concerned, that first item really does feel like it's the most important. If you're able to get some early kills or try to put pressure onto the enemy team with that early item and it works out for you, things just look really solid. He is also farming well, 19 and 10. You just can't slow down Air at this point. Nature's Prophet can't really handle this lane by himself, and even if they brought in support, it's not going to happen. Rubik at mid, they actually kill off the Queen of Pain. Not what I was expecting, but with 2 points up in the Adaptive Strike, it was enough to kill her off, and now with the Haste Rune, looks like the Rubik going to bump into the Vengeful Spirit as I'm lagging out of Perfect World servers. Darn it! We are going to see the Adaptive Strike stugging out Kaka for quite a long time. TP in from the Nature's Prophet to hear it over in the sidelines. They'll summon some treants, no body blocking coming out, they just need a little bit more damage. Can they find it with the Mystic Snake? They will. TP's coming in from ZSMJ. And, well, that's going to make this kill score 2-2 as Aces strike back in a pretty big way. Although not roaming with the Pudge, this Morphling is doing quite a bit of work. And speaking of the Pudge, he is going to find himself a bottle too. Misa being pursued out, he gets bashed once or twice by the Faceless Void. And if this is how the casting is going to be all day, my goodness, this is going to be a pretty darn long night, because it's more or less slideshow Dota. If it gets any worse, I'll try a reconnect into the server. But my goodness. Either way. Let's see. Misa on this Pudge has yet to really accomplish anything with the farm and the stasis they've given him, but now sitting at level 4, there is some killing potential in rotations. TP down towards bottom, coming out from the Rubik, and he just wants to soak a little bit more experience. He'll throw out a Fade Bolt and delay this push, but that's really all he can accomplish here, and he knows it, and that's completely fine. Morphling played as a support, although he can accomplish some things at level 4, it's really level 5 and 7 that you get to see the true colors of the hero once you get that stun up to absurd levels. I mean, a 2.25 second stun is by no means anything to sneeze at, but it also isn't that great. But once you get to 3 and 4 seconds, things start to get pretty nasty for HGT, as their heroes are fairly fragile. If you get that stun onto Queen of Pain, and even onto pretty much everybody, unless backtracks are involved on the Faceless Void, most of them are just going to fall like wet paper. The Queen of Pain, after dying once, is going to get a little bit less out of this lane, but still doing fine up against the Dusa, although Dusa is being supported out by the Pudge. Fishing in mid, not going to actually find anything. Shadow Fiend gets an Invis rune, but at this point that doesn't mean much. If he had more levels, maybe, just maybe, he can look to drop an ultimate. He's going to be farming up a massive stack too, and Air is well on its way towards becoming a monster. If he wasn't already, Power Tread's completed up and potentially going to be an Aquila for him, but a lot of gold for 6 minutes into this game, and it's not going to slow down anytime soon. Aces, if they knew about this, maybe they can TP in with the Nature's Prophet and kill him off, but that's so unlikely and so very risky too. Invis rune picked up, it's just going to be so he's able to sustain through, probably going to munch one of his Tangos as well, or not. Still, Air is going to go through the jungle rotation, leaving some room in lane for Pretty Han. A nice move coming out from them. They commit the Morphling and the Pudge down towards the bottom lane, and maybe they can kill off this Ancient Apparition. I mean, if a hook lands, this Ancient Apparition is pretty much gone. But they need to get these kills. They're leaving the Faceless Void completely alone up towards top, and they are going to get the waveform stun onto Pretty Han. Looking for the hook. Are they even going to need it? They'll just run him down with the Rot activated. They actually do commit the hook for the extra damage. I can't see animations, and this is abysmal. But it is still going to be a kill for Aces. They need to keep on doing this and keep the pressure up, or else this lineup coming out from their side just isn't going to do enough. When you're running a support Morphling, you can't passively farm, and now we're in for a big engagement. They are going to run into 3 enemy heroes. Misa going to drop. Even though he lands the hook, that is going to be the end of Kaka's life, making it a 1-for-1 trade now, but beneficial for HGT. ZSMJ is going to throw a little more harass towards the Morphling, but that's going to be about it. Apologies for the quality. There's actually nothing I can do. The Great Firewall of China is strong today, and, well, if it's not for pauses and not for connection issues with the players, it's connection issues for the casters, so who knows? Who knows? Up towards top, we have seen Icy left completely alone, level 8 on this Faceless Void. If he finds an opportunity, even a slight one, if he gets like one Bastion on Nature's Prophet, he can just commit the Chrono and get those kills. The Faceless Void is farming up an Absolute Storm, going to have a Aquila going to be sent out to him anytime now, and is going to be working towards a Mask of Madness, and really, it's HGT getting farm on 3 cores, where Aces kind of are getting farm on a Dusa. And it's not really impacting anything. Deuce is not a hero that can immediately transition that farm into some major kills and major map objectives. Like the Shadow Fiend, he's already hitting for upwards of 130 a smack, and those raises really do sting. Pings up towards top, and this is going to be an easy Chronosphere onto Kim with the Queen of Pain over in the sidelines. Nature's Prophet's going to die. They don't need to commit the ultimate for it. Just blink in, and H-Average Ice Blast lands onto nothing more than his dead corpse. With the double damage rune on the Queen of Pain, Kibble's coming easily. Smoke up coming out from Aces. Right now, they can't be behind. This is really nasty, and they need to find momentum now, and this is the way to do it. Looking for a smoke wraparound on HGT, they know that Chronosphere is not up, and ZSMJ does not have mana to get off his ultimate. He will have a blink, however, the hook is going to connect, but they don't get the lift off, and now ZSMJ is going to survive. The TP in from the Nature's Prophet might be enough to kill off Icy. They are going to lift up Faceless Void, pull him back, but a time walk away from the Faceless Void, and bringing in the Shadow Fiend might be enough to save him. A secondary stun onto ZSMJ. He's stunned for quite a long time. Hook lands, and now with the Dismember, that is going to be the end of the Pudge's life, however, as Air is able to mop him up with one more auto attack. They do clean up the Queen of Pain as Rubik snags it with a Fade Bolt, but Air is still going strong up towards top. Is going to be stunned up by the Morphling, but they can't actually turn onto Air. He's too darn tanky like the Buckler, going for the Mushi build on this Shadow Fiend. 5 and 5 is our kill score, and just the raw farming numbers from Hyperglory team really means that this game is looking grim already for Aces. That smoke needed to work out perfectly. Not a 1-for-1 trade, even though it's a pretty fair one. The Queen of Pain for the Pudge, I'll say, is pretty even, but they needed to dominate it. They needed to kill both the Void and the Queen, and Shadow Fiend in a perfect world. Pretty hot, going to be dropped low. It's going to be the Midas Rush for the Ancient Apparition, pretty much as standard. Things are just looking up for them. They're getting good farm. Really, the only one that's not is the Vengeful Spirit, and nobody expects Kaka to actually get much on this Venge. He is going to be TP'd behind by the Nature's Prophet. He's alone for now as they bring in the Rubik on towards the side. Going to steal a spell. It is going to be the Wave of Terror, and they are going to be able to lock down Kaka with the H-Average Ice Blast landing. However, if they bring in anybody else, it could be a kill onto both of these, but they will be able to get the dominating spree for the Rubik. Out of his whole team, Aces have been finding quite a lot onto the Rubik, but really does that matter. Hook and Dismember onto Air. This is a kill that they just really need, but with the mechanism, he's able to survive, turns for the ultimate, is able to crater the Pudge before falling himself. Unfortunately, not able to kill off Fox, but making the best of a bad situation. At the very least, they get a dominating spree up for Aces, and for probably the most important hero to get it. If Aces are able to stall this one out and get farm up for this Dusa, maybe then there's a chance. It's really tempting to say that Morphling is also going to transition, but this is a pure support Morphling. He's going to get Chronosphere down the bottom. Personal Ice Blast flies through, and things are not looking great for the Morph. Misa is going to jump in, looking for the hook angle. He is going to throw it towards the side, and he is going to be able to snag himself a Queen of Pain as to kill the Ancient Apparition as well, and deny the tower. No, going to be killed off by the Radiant. Swap back from Kaka, trying to get a little bit more distance, but with one more Fade Bolt, it's actually a mega kill spree for the Rubik. That's the fight that Aces really needed to have at their disposal, and they are going to find quite a big victory there. They can't stop, though. They really need to keep on doing that, and consistently, too. In the meantime, the Shadow Fiend's farming away inside his own jungle, and even though they get some much-needed kills and experience, it's not enough to make up for the fact that this laning stage just hasn't gone well for them. Mask of Madness up for Icy as well means that whenever he has that Chronosphere, kills are going to come so easily to them, and even without the Chrono, they'll jump in onto Kim with the Time Walk forward and with the Scream from ZSMJ. That's going to be the end of Nature's Prophet's life. Not anything he can do to actually TP out of that one. If you're standing in place, you're going to die. If you try moving, you're going to die. You're pretty much damned if you find yourself in a corner with these 3 heroes coming out from HGT. They do a ton of damage in return. Alrighty then. All eyes on Misa. 2, 3, and 5. This Pudge has not been doing poorly, but he was receiving lane farm. And I really think that decision coming out from Aces is what's making this game so hard. If they were giving that lane farm to the Morphling and not going for this support Morph, although I like teams experimenting with it, this really isn't the game for it, and I don't think you can go for a Pudge 2. I don't know. And if you are going to go for both of them, don't pick these late game farmers. Hook going to miss because of the Adaptive Strike bounce back. They still might be able to kill ZSMJ, going to be able to pull him back. Defensive swap, however, from the bench is going to save her life, and now mech'd up by the Shadow Fiend. Jump onto the Morphling, going to crater him with the Faceless Void and a couple bashes of his mace. that is going to be the end of his life. Nature's Prophet, a little bit of space is created, but HGT find themselves consistently at the advantage, and now they're going to push into a tier 1 tower. Aces might be able to get this tier 1 tower top, but Nature's Prophet alone, at this point, he can tank some damage from the tower, but not enough to actually do the job. That is going to be tier 1 tower mid. HGT's pushing power is just a little too much, and with the Chronosphere online, Aces cannot really fight into that. So HGT going to find nothing but wins. Medusa already is kind of the only hope for them. Phase drums up and looking towards Ayasha. The mobility build for Dusa is completely fine. It's going to help her contribute more to the team, but she can't be falling behind in farm, and not this much. The Nature's Prophet is the second highest farmer on Aces, and he's just sitting on a handful of bracers, as well as a robe of the Magi. Well, let's see. Smoke up coming out from Aces, and this is the move that they really need to look for. They are going to steal Blink, and that's a wonderful spell to have on your Rubik. It is going to make opening up on somebody a whole hell of a lot easier, but will they actually find an opening? That is your Midas, picked up by the Ancient Apparition, sub 14 minutes, and his farm is going to continue to accelerate, more or less ensuring that he gets level 11 and the Aghanim Scepter. Wave of Terror spotted out by the by the Rubik, but they actually can't go on that bench. Meanwhile, up towards top, Nature's Prophet going to survive. No mana for the Chronosphere, and didn't really want to commit either way. If he tread switch, he could have gotten that kill very easily, but still, you don't need to. That Nature's Prophet really isn't much of a threat. 1, 4, and 5. Can't say that he's had much of a game impact. Well, that said, we'll look towards top. Hook! It's gonna connect, but Faceless Void backtracks it. Are you kidding me? They're dismembering him. He's getting way too many backtracks here. Icy might still survive with the Time Walk. He has the Chronosphere as well to continue pursuing him. With the Mask of Madness activated, Icy, I think he's just fine here. They might be able to track him down. Let's see. He's juking through the trees. They need a little bit more damage. They are going to stun him up. Okay, never mind. He is going to end up being tracked down, but really, you can't afford to have those backtracks land on a maxed out hook. If that backtrack didn't happen the first time around, it would have been a much cleaner kill, and Aces have to commit quite a lot to it. In the meantime, the rest of the team from HGT are taking Roshan and Queen of Pain farming down towards bottom. Even though the Void dies, I think that's okay for HGT in all honesty. Even though they'd much rather prefer him live, they're going to be content with the fact that they now have a double life for air, as well as that mechanism up, and they'll be hitting so darn hard. And also Ayasha for air's Shadow Fiend. He's going to be clubbing. There's not much that Aces can actually do. Well, Ice Boss up towards top is going to counter push a little bit. That tier 1 tower is still moderately healthy, above half HP, even though Nature's Prophet's been doing his best to chip away at it. Faceless Void back up towards top. This time he doesn't have much backup, but he also has a full mana pool. The waveform forward, they get a long stun. He is going to be Fade Bolted, lifted up, they get the hook, and this one's not going to be backtracked. This time Icy is going to fall well executed, and that's really the combo that Aces need to consistently look for with those smoke ganks. That one, I'll say, is very good for Aces. No real objectives being taken out by HGT in the meantime. That was pretty much just a death. Well, for now, Aces are going to continue the pressure up towards top as HGT continue to farm away. The Shadow Fiend and Queen of Pain are going to go back to the well to farm up, or rather heal back up after the Roshan attempt. Tier 1 tower down towards bottom, going towards Aces, but they TP in with the Venge as well as with the Queen of Pain, and this could get hairy very quickly. Magic Missile going to connect on Nature's Prophet with the Ancient Apparition. Ice Blast flying through, going to connect onto both. The Stone Gaze is going to delay this a little bit. They are going to lose their Venge on the sidelines, but SMG going to turn around for the ultimate, but now being dismembered up by Misa. It is going to be a double kill for Fox and a 3-for-1 trade, plus the tower going the way of Aces. HGT maybe getting a little bit cocky here, as they don't really commit all of their heroes down there. I think they could have actually taken that defense, but they need the Shadow Fiend or the Faceless Void. I think they can take that fight 4v the team of Aces, but not with those three heroes in particular. Misa has been pretty spot on with the hooks and has been able to connect, and dismembering the Queen of Pain there is going to secure themselves a little bit more of an advantage. Shadow Fiend left alone up towards top is going to be chunking away at this tier 2 tower, and they probably do need to do something about it. Even though his team loses the fight, HGT are still putting pressure on the map, which is a pretty darn good call. Blade Mail now picked up by the Nature's Prophet. Aces are going to be able to continue up this aggression, but bigger still is that that double kill for the Deuce is going to mean that Fox is well on his way towards some pretty big items. Mantis Style looks like it's in the works. However, inside the Radiant Jungle, Scream going to catch vision of 2. They potentially are going to look for a swap. They are going to swap back the Pudge. Stunned on the sidelines. Shadow Fiend can't do much, but now turning in for Raze. It's going to be a very easy kill. Faceless Void notching himself the last hit That is going to be time walk stolen by the Rubik, and he'll be able to buy himself enough distance with that steal. But that's still your position 1 safe lane farming Pudge, but can you even call him that, especially when the enemy Ancient Apparition is getting just as much. And as far as items are concerned, and even more in the levels department, that Midas really paying dividends for them. And now that HGT are all as a 5-man unit, with the exception of Queen of Pain, I suppose, is she's chilling up towards top, looking at a counter push there. They'll be able to take a tier 2 tower very easily. They see the Dusa and Nature's Prophet up towards top, and although they'll get this tier 1 tower, at what cost? There is an Invis rune on ZSMJ. She shouldn't actually go onto any of this, and that is going to be the case. But it's a straight up tower trade that's heavily benefiting HGT as they lose their least important tower, and probably the least important tower on the entire map. Hook going to land onto IC. Time walk away is going to keep him safe for now. And looking for the jump, going to think about chronoing, but thinks better of it as they look towards Misa. Magic Missile up, going to be obliterated. The damage coming out from HGT is something to be scared of, and Ace is not respecting it much. HGT, they probably shouldn't go high ground at this point, even though they have the Aegis. They might be able to put some chip damage and force the Nature's Prophet to Deuce it back, but I think it's probably better just to approach these side lanes with TPN from the Vengeful Spirit looking towards Kim. Blade Mail is activated, but I don't think that's going to be enough to immediately save him. Swap back, and now looking towards the Magic Missile. After the Blade Mail is worn off, this should be a pretty easy kill for Kaka. Although the Ancient Apparition Ice Blast wears off, doesn't matter. That's a Venge more or less solo killing your off laner with a little bit of help from the AA. Aghanim Scepter now for the Queen of Pain is a scary, scary item pickup for Aces. The ultimates coming out from Queen of Pain have been fairly conservative, but now the ability to actually spam that out and get that consistently is going to be the Aces are going to be obliterated. That is going to be 390 pure damage. No, 450 pure damage that she can drop in an AoE. And if you take a look at the hero health pools on Aces, it's not great. It's okay. It's not great. They're going to be chunked down at least a third by that, and that's one spell, and can be consistently caught on multiple units, especially if the Chronosphere is good from Icy. Smoke again picking up by Aces. They're playing this appropriately. They need to be chain smoking and constantly picking up the aggression, and for now, the kill score is in their favor. But Medusa isn't able to pay dividends yet. She really is still the investment that they're sitting on, waiting before she becomes difficult to kill for HGT. But honestly, there's not a point where Medusa is going to be the invincible raid boss that we're kind of used to seeing a 6-slotted Dusa get to, especially if we see a Diffusal Blade picked up by the Spaceless Void. Although it's unlikely, I'd love to see the Diffusal Manta style build for him. Well, group up again from Aces. They are probably going to smoke and immediately look for a pick-off, but thinking of getting picked off, Nature's Prophet might be at the receiving end of that as well. If ZSMJ is able to catch him out inside the trees, never mind that. They're going to exercise a little bit of mercy, or caution, more like, as he is going to be able to TP out. Alrighty then, so Aces, they don't smoke up immediately, and they are still farming up admirably. If you take a look at the advantage, it has been stalled out a little bit for HGT, but my goodness, that really paused. Okay, either way, it's 5,000 in their favor from both metrics, and that's completely acceptable for both sides, as long as it doesn't get any worse for Aces. We'll see. I believe that's timed out in the Shadow Fiend, and it has timed out actually about 50 seconds ago. So HGT are going to be running with only 1 life on him, but they also have the completed Manta Style, and even though he doesn't have any raw damage items, that extra stat growth from the Manta Style is really going to be useful for him, considering he has Avenge behind him, hitting for upwards of 200 a swing, 230 almost. That's scary, especially when you factor in that minus armor. Long stun on the Shadow Fiend, going to be swapped back after the hook, however. The faces, or actually Shadow Fiend still ends up over by Misa. Not sure how that happened, but with the ultimate expend, they are going to be able to blow up too. Pudge going to buy back and wants some action. Looking towards Icy, Hook is going to completely whiff, and Icy is going to survive at least for now. Ancient Apparition, however, not so lucky. A hefty fight. I have no idea what that interaction, though, was. The swap comes out from the Vengeful Spirit, but then the Hook still pulls him back? Yeah, okay, that's interesting. We don't get to see a lot of Pudge, and I don't play a lot of Pudge personally, so I'm not exactly sure. But still, Aces, they find some important kills for the Medusa in particular, and that's your completed Scotty up for the Dusa. And Aces now have the ability to aggressively look for a push. For the first time in a long time, they're going to look towards a Tier 1 tower in the middle lane. And they'll be able to take it. Tier 1 tower is fairly easy for them to snag, and they have the Pudge in reserve. And even though I don't think giving him the lane farm did anything for Aces, in all honesty, it probably did less than nothing. I think just giving him the experience was enough. It has been played well. 4-7 and 7, it's not the flashiest of KDAs. This isn't a godlike Pudge, but the hooks have been well placed, and Misa is played it well. We'll see. Up towards top, TP away, going to keep Vengeful Spirit safe, and she bumps into the Nature's Prophet. But the Nature's Prophet solo, at this point, cannot kill off the Vengeful Spirit unless she's fighting back actively into the Blade Mail, which would be ill-advised. Well, things have stalled out a little bit as Hyperglory team are losing a little bit of momentum, but after they get this BKB up for the Shadow Fiend, things get a little bit easier for them since they don't have to deal with, especially this Morphling and his adaptive strike. I like to think of it as like a Beastmaster Roar that's on a 10-second cooldown that doesn't go through Magic Immunity. It's a little bit worse, don't get me wrong, but it's still pretty darn good for what you're actually committing the hero for, even though it doesn't offer much else on top of that. The illusions this game aren't that great to be created by the Morphling. When you have like an anti-mage, Naga Siren especially on the enemy team, picking up the support Morphling I absolutely love when you can get a lot of replicate use. But they also have a Medusa on their own side, so they can get this extra illusion that hits so darn hard, with the split shot as well. So I think it's completely fine, even though it's not going to be getting them a free Radiance. Stun going the way of the Morphling, and now the Chronosphere connects on all three as Morphling walks into it. The Ancient Apparition Ice Blast to follow up as well as the Queen of Pain ultimate means that Morphling's down. Stolen Chronosphere by the Rubik, going to catch out a plethora of Radiant heroes, but as well as Fox and Misa. Both going to connect onto Air, but Air, he's not dropping low enough, and Misa tanking the tower is going to be cratered by him. Air might still fall, however, as he's turned to stone by the Medusa and her ultimate, making it a 1-for-2 trade as the fight still continues. Magic Missile onto Fox, and he does not have enough mana to tank through that. TP attempt coming out from the Rubik. Will they have any way to cancel it? No, they do not, as the Magic Missile was on cooldown and not enough mana to use it even if it was there. Hyperglory team, they lose their Shadow Fiend, but they get pretty much everything else. Medusa dying there is huge for them, and it's going to be a really big swing in their favor, even though Shadow Fiend loses a slight bit of gold. Large gold being picked up into the bank now of the Queen of Pain as well as the Faceless Void. And this is, again, swings that really can't be afforded by aces. They're not going to lose anything super major off of this lost team fight, but it's still a bad omen for the future, especially when you have Pretty Hot picking up that Aghanim Scepter at less than 25 minutes in on a support Ancient Apparition. And his ultimates have been pretty darn on point, making it almost impossible for aces to fight as well. Fortunately enough, the Morphling, although I talked about in the draft kind of being countered out by that Ancient Apparition Ice Blast, when you're a Strength Morph support Morphling, things are a little bit easier for you, as you don't have to rely on Strength Morphing on the fly, and really it's not that important. Bigger still is, however, for the Medusa, bringing her down is going to be so easy, and they have so much burst as well to bring them down below the threshold. BKB now picked up by the Faceless Void, and the big items are coming out for Hyperglory team. And really, aces, they only have the Medusa keeping up, and that's all fine and dandy. But Fox, he still isn't doing enough deeps to actually bring down Hyperglory team convincingly before he falls in return. Especially when you have the Requiem reduced damage coming out from Air, as well as the Vengeful Spirit reduced damage if the defensive swaps come through. For the most part, Venge has been really well positioned. 1, 5, and 13 is really the hallmark of a good Venge player, I suppose. You are going to be losing yourself several times due to defensive swaps. It's just kind of how the hero works. But that could also work to benefit their team, because right now Medusa is all about that base damage, and without 36% of that, or once it's maxed out 36% of that, things get really hairy for them. Either way, that's your BKB up for Hyperglory team as well on their Shadow Fiend, currently rocking 2 of those items, so look for a hook, but that isn't going to connect as Misa doesn't connect with anything. Ice Vortex going to catch vision of all 3 of these heroes, and for now, they're all going to fall back, but with these freshly picked up BKBs, their power relative to aces is pretty insane, and they can look feasibly to look for tier 2 towers or take Roshan in their favor. Fighting in the Roche Pit isn't the easiest of feats for Hyperglory team, but it's even worse for aces. Fighting into Roche against a Chronosphere, Shadow Fiend Requiem, Queen of Pain Ultimate, Ancient Apparition Ice Blast. Every one of these heroes really thrives inside the Roche Pit in one way or another, and my goodness, that damage on Roche Pit, or on the Roshan, was ridiculous. Shadow Fiend going to find himself a double life now as they bring down Roche in just a matter of seconds. They smoke into it, and aces weren't anywhere close. You'd have to be on top of it and jumping in with like a Tidehunter Ravage if you actually want to contest that, and even then, things get hairy, and they just don't have that power. And even if they knew what was going on, I think it's a good call to not actually do anything about it, because it would 90% of the time go south for them. Shadow Fiend is going to be leading the charge down towards the bottom lane. From here on out, I'd like to see Air go for damage. His raw damage potential has been carrying him through up until this point, but right now he feels like he's very, very hard to bring down. and that there's not much that they can actually deal with them with. The Mystic Snake is going to be thrown out left and right by Fox, counter pushing this a little bit. They'll open up with the stun onto air, but he has an Aegis and a team backing him up, although they are going to remind him that this Morphling is packing quite a hefty stun. Tier 2 tower is going to fall in favor of Hyperglory team with no contention, although in the meantime, Nature's Prophet's been doing his thing up towards top lane and is going to find quite a decent amount of pressure up there, looking to cancel a TP. First hit bash, are you kidding me? He's going to be able to do so, and Kim can't do anything. Pops the Blade Mail, and he's going to backtrack a couple of those Blade Mail hits too. If they really need to, they can commit the Chronosphere for this, but they'll just drop the ultimate from the Queen of Pain. It's also on a 40-second cooldown. They actually lose nothing from going for that one, and Nature's Prophet couldn't have been more unlucky. That TP was about to go through, and, well, Basis Void is going to say no to that one. Alright, so currently, Hyperglory team finding objective after objective. If the Nature's Prophet didn't die there, things would look good for Aces. When you have an Aegis on the enemy team and you can't actually fight, the best you can hope for is an even trade, and that's amazing for them. We got in for the Medusa, we now have that Butterfly all the way up, but then again, it's not without answers from Hyperglory team, as they have a Scythe of Ice on the Queen of Pain, going to deny away that evasiveness coming out from the Medusa, and going to make them, make it a lot easier to bring her down. Although, the damage is still significant, as I kind of touched on earlier. Fox is the only hero that they really have to worry about. Maybe they can find a punch hook that gets them into a compromising position. But then again, with the BKBs, I think they can turn them on, even though Hook is going to go fully through BKB, and Dismember is, well, going to lock them down. The damage through BKB is all the Medusa. Alrighty. HGT going to continue to push up towards top, and I think they have seen this Medusa Butterfly at one point or another. But it is going to beg that we do see a MKB coming out from air next. Interesting enough, we have an Aghanim Scepter up for the Rubik. I don't personally like it, as we see the tier 2 tower fall in the favor of Hyperglory team. But what is he actually going to be upgrading? I mean, there are good spells, don't get me wrong, with the Queen of Pain Ultimate, the HF version, Ice Blast, but it's going to rely more heavily on positioning, and I think getting a Blinker 4-staff first is probably a better call, and maybe even going towards the Scythe of Ice if you're looking towards these big ticket items would have had just a better immediate impact. Either way, the tier 3 tower is going to be chipped down by Hyperglory team for really nothing more committed than a handful of Mantle Illusions, and they'll drop it to about half. No hooks flying out from Misa as everybody's able to TP away, and my goodness, the Queen of Pain going to end that split pushing of the Nature's Prophet with some help from her friends. It is going to be yet another pickoff onto this Nature's Prophet, and really that's kind of been the story of the game. Queen of Pain is going to ult a creep wave. Unfortunately enough, the buff, I would say, to her ulti, making it pure damage that pierces BKB, does make it so you can't mop up those creep waves come about 30 minutes in, since creeps actually don't care about magical versus pure damage, and I don't think it's actually worth it to do so, but who knows. I think just a couple of screams would have been better for her. Alrighty, so we are going to see another group up coming out from Hyperglory team, and they can do so. Pushing high ground is a difficult task, but they have a lot of tools at their disposal to actually accomplish this. They'll look for a wraparound. If they can find a pick, this is going to make things all the much easier for them. The courier is going to be flying over the top. It's going to deliver an item over towards the Morphling. And, well, it's going to be Dagger Morph. Blink in from ZSMJ. Going to Scythe up Fox as they look to burst down this Medusa. Medusa isn't dropping that low, but low enough. She'll be able to get off the Stone Gaze, and they are going to be forced to turn around. They actually stone up Air, and now they're focusing down the Shadow Fiend. Shadow Fiend going to lose his Aegis, and they stun up Icy as well. This is going to be a fight without Chronosphere for Hyperglory team, and this is probably Ace's best chance to actually make a turn. Air coming back to the land of the living, going to unveil the ultimate, going to obliterate the Nature's Prophet. Hook going the way of ZSMJ, trying to focus down inside the Dismember, put a blink away from the Queen of Pain, going to keep him alive. They focus down the Shadow Fiend. They are going to be able to stun him up. The Queen of Pain still dropping low and is going to tick down with that Urn tick from the Pudge. Meanwhile, in the fight proper, it is going to be a 1-1 by Hyperglory team. The only one surviving, or 4 aces, the only one surviving on Hyperglory team is the Venge, and oh, not for long. They are going to be able to kill off the Rubik, I suppose, with the stolen Requiem thrown out. That hook from Misa, that was really questionable. That might be enough to save Kaka? I don't think so. They should be able to chase him down. One more Mystic Snake going to fly through, and with TPN from Kim, that's going to be a gem as well. Things really couldn't have gone better for them. That started out so sketchy coming out from HGT. They don't have the BKB on the Faceless Void. They pop it very early on. Then he gets stunned up by the Morph, focused down by the Pudge over in this vicinity, and isn't able to do anything in that fight. And without the Faceless Void Chronosphere, things get a lot more sketchy for them, and Medusa is tanky as all hell. It really is hard for them to actually bring her down. She was able to right-click through the entirety of it. Nature's Prophet kills off the Void again? Are you kidding me? I didn't think that would fly through. Icy just wanted to hold on to his BKB, and it's going to force him to buy back. Ace is finding a huge lease on life after those couple of engagements. Now Fox going to be well on his way towards the next major items that he wants to pick up, and is hitting that full 6-slotted Deuce of territory very shortly. Phase Drums, Manta, Butterfly, as well as the Scotty online. They can make that Replicate Illusion too to tank up in the front lines. Okay, so I was a little bit afraid that Morphling would go for a Dagon. I mean, not afraid. At this point, I don't think it really matters what he buys. It's actually going to be a Necro Book for him, and that's already level 2, and he's going to be level... It's going to be level 3 fairly shortly, especially if they're able to break high ground. Aces, I didn't think they'd be able to do this, but I suppose you can never count out a late game Medusa. Look at that gold swing. My goodness, vertical slope downwards, back in towards the favor of at least my favorite since they picked Pudge. And wow, it's going to be down to a 6,000 lead, maybe even a little bit less in the gold, and experience similar, down to 5,000 advantage. Hyperglory team, they're letting things slip, and maybe this defensive Shadow Fiend build is not really paying itself off. He's not able to survive through these fights convincingly if he gets stunned out by the Morphling, which really has been crucial for Aces. It is pretty much like a Beastmaster that has a 10-second roar cooldown. You're able to get off 3, maybe even 4 inside a fight if they're going as long as they are. Up towards top, we are going to see Kaka bump into the Nature's Prophet with some help from ZSMJ. Should be able to kill him off. Looking for the bash, they won't need it. Going to ult him down by the Queen of Pain. Yeah, just going to be another pickup on the Nature's Prophet. That is a dieback. He bought back in the previous engagement, probably unnecessarily so. But still, yeah. I don't think that matters much at all. It's all about the Dusa at this point. And the Morphling. Dusa and Morphling, I think, are their key suspects, but Aces have been playing very well together. They're going to look for some dewarding after picking up the gem from the enemy team too. They'll be able to deny out a lot of map vision that HGT were relying on to keep themselves inside this game. If they go to super late game territory, Hyperglory team might be able to outfarm Aces since the Morphling isn't transitioning at all. But for now, I think this game is really close to being flat even. I think it's going to depend very heavily on the next Roshan. It's going to be a very quick respawn timer too. Don't think that really favors either team since Nature's Prophet's going to be back up and both teams will be fighting 5-on-5 with all of their ultimates online. But that should be pretty crucial. Who actually gets that second life? If they put that second life on Fox, I don't really see HGT winning a fight convincingly, unless they're able to ignore the Dusa without taking too much damage themselves, which right now is very difficult. You do have the MKB up for the Shadow Fiend, but with no innate ways to actually drain the mana coming out from the Dusa, she's impossibly tanky and impossibly hard to bring down already. So, yeah, we've stalled out, and now it's Ace's turn to look towards a push down towards bottom, and they will be able to do so. They are going to attempt to breach high ground. Screw Roshan, I suppose. Maybe they'll just put a little bit of pressure before backing off in the Roche Pit. That's probably the better option. But maybe they feel that they don't need it. This might be a little bit risky from them, but I think they can do it. We'll just have to see how the positioning is, and at the very least, they're going to attempt to force them back up towards top. Oh, Nature's Prophet again. Going to be ulted up by the Queen Pain with the Ancient Apparition Ice Blast landing, and a double damage rune again for ZSMJ. Going to be a pickoff onto the Nature's Prophet. So I think at this point, it's probably safe to assume that Aces should back off, or should they? They are going to bump into air. They get the 4.5 second stun off. Time walk forward, looking for the lift onto air, but the Chronosphere are going to catch out everybody, but they're not able to focus them down. BKB popped a little bit too late. They'll focus down the Rubik. Nature's Prophet has previously died. The ultimate unwound by the Shadow Fiend. They're going to be able to kill off 3, and now looking for more, but the Medusa ultimate focus down ZSMJ. Defensive swap from the Venge is going to keep ZSMJ alive. Blink towards the north is also going to live, but Kaka not so lucky. After looking for that defensive swap, is going to lose the Venge's life, making it inside that fight a 2-for-1, and I suppose you can include the pickoff earlier, but now with the stun onto Icy, they might be able to kill off this Faceless Void. Fox isn't doing enough damage with the ultimate coming out for the Queen of Pain, clearing up the creep wave. They might be able to catch somebody out. The Ancient Apparition Ice Blast onto the Morph, and he's going to get his TP cancelled by the Scythe of Ice. That's also gems secured by HGT, and Aces are going to be punished for a very risky move. I thought that would open up better for them, but they just weren't able to focus down that Shadow Fiend. Even after getting the initiation off onto him, nice Chronosphere coming out from Hyperglory team, even though it wasn't able to focus down everybody, that kills off the Rubik instantly, and really puts everybody else in a pretty compromising position. And we are seeing that Dedusa, by herself, doesn't have quite enough damage. And it is going to be Hyper Glory Team again finding themselves at an advantage inside this game. And with an extra life and a cheese as well. This is the third Roshan picked up by them after all. Icy going to pick up that cheese for himself, and we're back in kind of the state of the game that we saw a couple minutes ago. The comeback was real for a second there for Aces, but now they're pretty much back in the same situation where Shadow Fiend is stacked and their Dusa needs an extra item on top of this. Although Dusa can buy that next item, sitting on 6. Oh, ho, ho, ho. Okay, I was about to suggest it, but we're actually going to see the Divine Rapier out for the Dusa. This is ballsy, but probably necessary. This solves any issues that anybody at one point might have had with Dusa not doing enough damage. Extra 300 flat is a godsend for Fox, as he's going to be able to split shot everybody to oblivion. It's a little bit down on the mana department, but I think this is a valid way to go about doing this game. If they had the Divine for that last fight, things are completely different, because they'll be able to bring down the Void and the Queen of Pain, no questions asked. They survived pretty low on their lives, and the Shadow Fiend even, everybody on Hyper Glory Team, for that matter. Fox is going to be dishing, but if he dies and gives a Rapier over to, honestly, any of these Hyper Glory Team carries, or even if he just loses that gold, things look really sketchy, and honestly, I think this is the biggest pickup that Hyper Glory Team can have. Even though they might not know about the Rapier, I don't think Dusa is actually shown on the map. This Heaven's Halberd is going to be really difficult for Dusa to actually deal with. Let's see. They're going to smoke up with their whole team, looking to find a jump onto the enemy side. If they can focus on this Venge before the Halberd comes out onto Fox, things get a little bit problematic for them, as HGT don't have any great tools to disable to have a Scythe and the Halberd. And together, that is maybe enough already. We have a replicate. That is the Dusa in the mid lane. Going to show off that they do have a Divine Rapier, but not going to show off the actual hero itself. And it looks like Hyper Glory Team know that that is the case. Did they actually drop the Rapier before making that replicate? I didn't actually check, but that could be super, super next level. Now it's completely noticed that they do have a Rapier on their side. Okay, so Aces, they're going to try this again. And let's see if the initiation is going to be in their favor. This time around, the Shadow Fiend isn't going to get caught out outside of his base. They are going to make those Manta Illusions and start chunking away at the tower with them. Unfortunately, Illusions don't benefit from the Rapier and the extra plus damage, so they are going to be mopped up without doing much in return. Aces is going to pull back, and, well, they find themselves a double damage rune. This is also very scary. Dusa is going to be trucking. This is an extra 200 damage on top of the Rapier, going to be hitting for upwards of 700 per hit. That's pretty cool. And also hitting at a decent amount of attack speed to top it all off. If they protect this Dusa, Aces are pretty much going to win the fight. Let's see. This is really tense, not gonna lie. And they're smoked up again. Behind the creep wave, they are going to break it, however, by attacking the creeps. They're going to show off this double damage rune, and right now, Hyper Glory Team, what's the play? What's going to happen? They have to deal with this Medusa sometime or another. They're going to make a replicate as well and send that up towards the high ground. Or no, they're going to send the real Fox up towards the high ground. The replicate on the side going to focus down Air. Air going to use his Manta style and is going to survive, but is fairly low here. Tier 3 tower dropping as well. The Nature's Prophet is forced to be inside this engagement. They'll swap back Fox. Where's the backup? They get the Chronosphere off. The ultimate unleashed by the Shadow Fiend. It looks like Fox is going to drop the Rapier. Swap over on the sideline. Stolen by the Rubik. Fox might survive. The Rapier's on the ground. Who's going to pick it up? Aces don't have anybody to snag that Rapier at the moment. They are going to lose Shadow Fiend, but he has a second life. Stolen Chrono by the Rubik, but he's going to die afterwards. Buyback from the Medusa. Rapier has been snagged. Who actually has it? Looks like it is going to be Aces on the retreat. Will they be able to get out? And the Rapier is currently... Where's the Rapier? Huh. Courier? Courier? Rapier? Huh. Alrighty then. Hyper Glory Team finally recognized that there was the Divine Blade, and they are going to secure that for the Shadow Fiend. Okay, there we go. That was the fight. Unfortunate as well. I thought that stolen swap from the Rubik would be super clutch, but they just weren't able to secure the Rapier. If Pudge picked that up and got that back to the base, and maybe, I don't know, just stay AFK in the base so that Hyper Glory Team don't have that at their disposal, maybe die to Ancients or something to feed it the way of Medusa. Is that actually legal, however? There are some leagues where you can't actually intentionally suicide to give a Divine Rapier to your carry. It's a really obscure rule, and I'm not sure if that's actually enforced or if that's a thing in DAC, but it does occur to me that some leagues don't like that. Okay. Either way, Rapier on the Shadow Fiend, things got a whole heck of a lot harder for Aces. The dream was real for the Divine comeback, but right now Dusa is A, without Rapier, and B, without buyback, and that is a recipe for disaster. This Shadow Fiend, as hard as the Dusa was hitting earlier, he's going to be hitting just about as hard, although not cleaving through everybody. This is the hero that matters, right here. Fox here. If they clean up Fox, the chance that Aces actually win a fight is so slim. And, well, let's see. Rubik, after dying, does not have that Stolen Chronosphere. If they did, maybe, just maybe, they're able to find a pick onto the Shadow Fiend. But now Hyperglory team going to be smoked up themselves, looking for a little bit of blood. This could be disastrous. They are going to bump into the Morphling first, going to open up with the Hex, and oh my goodness! That Shadow Fiend damage is going to open up into camp, trying to channel his ultimate. It's going to be cancelled by Misa, but hot damn! Shadow Fiend! I don't have words for that. That's disgusting. Alright, Time Walk into the base, coming out from the Faceless Void. Time Walk stolen from the Rubik. He's going to Time Walk away to safety. But now it's Hyperglory team's turn to put some major pressure onto the enemy's side. They are without the BKB on the face, or Shadow Fiend, excuse me. But without actually having the Morphling up. I don't think that BKB actually matters. They are going to have the lift from the Rubik. Time Walk into lift. They can't kill Air in the duration of that. Look at this tier 3 tower just get chopped down. This is not a tiny with axe. This is Air with way too much damage. And that is going to be melee barracks going down after the fact, after the tier 3. Now they're going to swing down towards bottom. What's there to stop Hyperglory team? Not much. Dusa, if she had enough money to buy another Rapier, maybe there's a chance for a comeback, but I think at this point, it's all down in the formalities. Aces put up a hell of a show, though. Commendations to them. It was a lot of fun to watch, and it better be after such a long, drawn-out pause to start things off. Okay, then. Hyperglory team going to pull back after getting their prize and 2 barracks up. They don't go for the third, and that's a conservative play, and rightfully so. Aces right now, they just need Fox to get that Rapier. How do they actually kill him? Especially now when you get slopped into a Chronosphere and they chunk you down with air. Okay, there we go. Scythe up. They are going to hook the Shadow Fiend up at the high ground. That was a very awkward hook, but the Force Staff coming out from the Swartz, and he'll one-click down that Vengeful Spirit that, or, excuse me, that was a Pudge. That was not a Venge. That was a Pudge. That was at half HP. That's pretty cool. ZSMJ with the BKB activated is going to go into the base, but right now, they're going to mop up the effigies. No mercy for the effigies of Aces, and in fact, that was the only one. How boring. Okay, well, now into the tier 4 towers, they're going to focus on Aces. They're not going to tap out because this is Chinese Dota, but for all intents and purposes, we are going to be thinking about Game 2, or at least they are going to be thinking about Game 2 and what they can pull out. Especially with ping advantage, this was a really good showing for them. There was a lot of times where there was hope, but after that last fight, the hope was no more. We're currently upwards of 40,000. HF Personal Ice Blast landing inside the fountain is going to be the end of Rubik's life, but he's saved by the bell. As the Ancient's going to destroy, and GG Whale Plate called out. That's not going to be the end of it. This is going to be more and more DAC coming your way here on HeflaTV 2. And, well, it is going to be me casting as well, but later on in the evening I am going to be joined by co-casters and maybe co-casting myself. So, hope to see you soon. We are going to have Game 2 of HGT versus Aces coming up shortly, as soon as it's up on Dota TV.